Cycling often thrives on noise. The shouts from the roadside, the radios crackling in the peloton, the endless pulse of numbers on a power meter. But every so often, the sport is moved by silence. And this week, that silence belonged to Jonas Vingegaard. There is life beyond the Tour de France. 7 words, delivered almost in a whisper, yet heavy enough to shake the foundations of July itself. After finishing his 2025 season with only 2 Grand Tours, the Tour and La Vuelta, the Dane finally spoke. And what he said was less a statement than a meditation. Some fans called him distant, others wise. But beneath that calm voice lay the same man who once ripped the Alps apart and made the impossible look effortless. Is he hinting that he might skip the Tour de France 2026? Nobody knows, perhaps not even Jonas, because what his words revealed was not hesitation, but humanity. The fatigue of perfection, the cost of always being expected to win. For 4 years, he has lived in a world measured only by watts, seconds, and yellow jerseys. A kingdom of pressure where victory is normal and failure unacceptable. So when he says there is life beyond the Tour, he isn't rejecting greatness. He's reminding the sport that greatness can take other shapes. A new challenge, a slower rhythm, a rediscovery of why he began riding in the first place. Behind those reflective blue eyes, you can almost see the question forming. How long can a human live at this altitude? Vingegaard's pause may be short, or it may mark the beginning of something entirely new. Either way, it forces the cycling world to look beyond July, and that alone makes it revolutionary. When RMC Sport asked him about the new wave of French talent, Jonas could have smiled politely and changed the subject. Instead, he leaned in and delivered a lesson. He spoke about Paul Seixas, just 19 years old. The young phenomenon France has already crowned its saviour. If I were him, Jonas said, I'd wait. He's got enormous potential, but maybe it's too soon. The tone was soft, almost fatherly, but every word carried the weight of a man who has seen dreams crushed under the bright lights of the Tour, because Jonas knows that applause can turn to pressure overnight. Seixas' resume reads like prophecy. Winner of the Tour de l'Avenir, bronze at the European Championships, top 10 at the Dauphiné, and 13th at the Worlds. France hasn't seen numbers like that since Hinault, and with every headline, the expectations grow louder. But Jonas's message was not about fear, it was about protection. He remembers 2021 when he arrived at the Tour as a helper and suddenly found himself chasing Pogacar up the Col du Portet. The cameras, the pressure, the disbelief, it all came too fast. He survived, but only because Visma shielded him. Not every rider gets that shield. The Tour, he said quietly, isn't just a race. It's a storm. You have to know when you're ready to stand in it. His warning to Seixas was a kind of kindness that modern sport rarely allows. A reminder that sometimes the most courageous act is to wait. For over 3 decades, France has chased a ghost. Every July the nation gathers, waiting for a new Hinault to emerge from the mist of the Alps. And every July the dream dissolves into heartbreak. The maillot jaune has become both holy and haunting. It glitters with history, but its weight can crush even the strongest shoulders. Jonas Vingegaard understands that burden more than most. He has lived inside the storm, feeling both the euphoria and the emptiness that come with the colour yellow. When he first appeared as Pogacar's quiet rival in 2021, nobody outside Denmark could pronounce his name. By 2023, the same name echoed through the valleys of the Pyrenees as he dismantled the field with machine-like precision. 2 tours later, he had nothing left to prove, yet the hunger of the world remained. Meanwhile, France continues to devour its prodigies. Every time a new hope appears, Bardet, Gaudu, Pinot, they are pushed onto the Tour's start line as if destiny owed them something. And every time destiny refuses to cooperate, that is the curse of the yellow jersey. It promises immortality but demands innocence as payment. So when Vingegaard advises patience, he is not criticising ambition. He's warning against a system that confuses speed with destiny. The Tour doesn't make you a champion, he once said. The road to the Tour does. In those words lies the essence of endurance, a belief that greatness is built quietly, away from the spotlight, in the long climbs nobody films. And perhaps, beneath his calm advice to Seixas, Jonas was also speaking to himself, a man learning that even kings must sometimes step away from their own throne to stay human. Every generation mirrors the one before it. For Paul Seixas, that mirror reflects two of the most dazzling talents cycling has ever seen, Tadej Pogacar and Remco Evenepoel. Pogacar became a legend before turning 23. Multiple tours, monuments, endless dominance. Evenepoel conquered the Vuelta and the Worlds with the fearlessness of youth. They changed the definition of possible. But what television rarely shows is the cost. Pogacar lives inside permanent expectation, every defeat dissected, every victory expected. Evenepoel rebuilt his career and his body after a crash that could have ended everything. They are champions not only because they win, but because they endure. Vingegaard admires both, yet walks a different road. He doesn't chase headlines, he chooses silence. His genius is rhythm, his weapon patience. He teaches that control can be as beautiful as chaos. When he tells Seixas to wait, it's not to delay success, but to preserve it. Because the Tour doesn't forgive naivety, it exposes it. Seixas seems to grasp that truth. If it were up to my heart, he said, I'd ride the Tour now. But am I really ready? That single question may be the reason he eventually survives where others fell. In this new era, where teenagers win monuments and endurance is replaced by immediacy, patience itself has become revolutionary. And maybe that is what Jonas Vingegaard is really defending, a slower, wiser form of greatness. When the cameras fade and the season resets, Jonas Vingegaard's words will remain like footprints on wet asphalt. They aren't aimed only at one French prodigy, they're meant for an entire generation speeding toward burnout. Modern cycling moves faster than the roads themselves. Riders peak in their early 20s and are expected to stay gods forever. But Jonas has learned that power without peace is fragile. His own rise was methodical. Years of quiet building under Visma's watchful eye, mastering endurance before mastering dominance. That journey carved not just a champion, but a philosopher on wheels. So when he says, there is life beyond the Tour de France, he is not abandoning the race that made him immortal. He's redefining what immortality means. It's a call to breathe again, to find value in the climbs nobody televises, in the recovery days, in the silence after the finish line. In an age obsessed with numbers, Jonas is teaching the unmeasurable: patience, longevity, humility. He may never shout, but his message roars. And perhaps one day, when Paul Seixas finally stands on the start line of the Tour fully formed, he'll remember that the first lesson of greatness came from a man who chose to pause. Because in cycling, as in life, the hardest sprint isn't to the finish, it's against time itself. And the quiet Dane from Glingera has just proven that sometimes the slowest move is the one that lasts forever.